Hi, this is Matt Jerkois. I use Google Earth Engine for my final project. I have a 476-acre piece of land in New Hampshire. I don't have a land survey or any other documentation that tells me what is on the property or what it contains. I've used Google Earth Engine to determine some geographic characteristics, including any bodies of water, any roads, the areas that are tree cover, areas that are open spaces, and also the elevation throughout the property. Now, there's a specific process you need to follow in order to use Google Earth Engine, and I'm going to describe that now. So the first thing you need to do is have a Gmail account. If you don't have one, you need to create one. And the way to create one is to go to accounts.google.com and select the Create Account button. That will prompt you to enter in the account information, and then you just follow the prompts until it's done. If you have a Gmail account already, you don't have to do this, and you can go right to requesting access to the Google Earth Engine. To do that, you would go to earthengine.google.com, and in the corner you'll see an option for sign up. So you'd click that, and then you would select the Gmail account that you want to use, and then you would log in. Okay, and then you get this screen where you enter your personal information, you fill it out, and then you hit this submit button, and that will send a request to Google for access to the Earth Engine. Now, it's going to take a few days. The documentation here says about a week. It took me 5 days, but when you do finally get accepted, you're going to receive an email, and that is, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I need to log into my correct account. I have two. One of them has access to the Earth Engine, one does not. So I will log into the one that does. Okay, and then you're going to receive an email from Google about Earth Engine that says, welcome to Earth Engine. And you're going to have a number of options when you get here. Now, one of the options is the code editor. Now, the code editor is the interactive development environment that's provided for you to write code. And there's two types. There is one that has a JavaScript API, one that has Python API. I use the one for JavaScript. And the other options are options basically to get you familiar with the Earth Engine, some tutorials, some explanation of what everything is. But I'm going to go to the code editor next because that is where all the action takes place. So if you go to the code editor, you're going to see an environment with many parts. On the left, you're going to see the scripts tab. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that there are files with .js extensions. Those are the scripts that I created for the project. This middle section, this is called the JavaScript code editor, And that's where you're going to enter in your code for your scripts. And the bottom, you'll see a map. This is where the output occurs when you run one of your scripts. And the other important features of note are in the JavaScript code editor, you're going to see a run button and a save button. Now, when you have code in this editor and you make changes, the save button will be enabled and you can save it into the file or into a new file, and I'll show you what happens then. Or if you have code there, you can just hit the run button and that'll execute the script, and I'll show you an example of that. So to create a new script, you would just type in code here, and I'm not putting in any anything for real. I just want to show you how the save button works. When you're done with the code, you click the save button and you're prompted to enter a file name. So I'm just going to put majscript.js for a JavaScript file. Click the OK button, and now that file which you just created new gets put into underneath the scripts tab, and you can see the majscript.js file that we just created. Okay, now one of the scripts that I created is called plain. So in order to run that or to edit it, you'd click it here, and you see that it puts its code into the editor window. So here, here's the code for the script, and if I make any changes to the code, again, this save button becomes enabled. I can save it, and that will update this the JS file here. If I want to run this, I would click the run button here, and you can only run or save the code that you have in this editor window. So I'm going to show you an example of this plain script is one that I wrote in order to show any bodies of water or any roads in my property. And I'll come back and I'll explain what this code means, but let me run this first. So I go to the run button, select that, and you're going to see in this lower window activity. So what has happened is you see the map that I created displayed, and I have put a rectangle around my property to show the boundaries. So this script shows me that there are in fact 4 bodies of water on my property. You see a big pond here, a small pond here, a small pond here, and this is a stream. So those are the 4 bodies of water. And in the corner, you see 2 roads. This road comes into the property, cuts through, and then leaves. That's one road. And then here, you can see a road going into here. So this script tells me on my property what I have for bodies of water and roads. So that was the first of 3 scripts that I created, and this was very insightful because I'd never seen, the only body of water I had seen was the big pond. The other ones I have not seen, but now I know they're there. So looking at the code, we see this first line that says map.setCenter, and you have 3 numbers. The first 2 numbers are the latitude and longitude values for the center of my property. So what that does is that takes the map of the world, and it centers it on the middle of my property. And that's why down here, you're seeing my property in the middle of the map. So in order to show any other part of the world, you would put the latitude and longitude values in that command, and that would center your map at that point. Now, a very interesting thing that you can do is, if you don't know what the latitude and longitude is, the Earth Engine IDE lets you figure that out. So you would go up to here, you'd click the Inspector tab, and then when you go down here onto the map and you click anywhere, you'll see back up in the Inspector window the values for the latitude and longitude. So that's how I knew what to put in this command. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what it was unless I could search on the internet or look into some cartographic book or whatever. So that's an easy way of determining the latitude and longitude of a point on your map. Looking in that command, you also see the number 15. Now 15, that number, the third number is the zoom value. So as that number increases, you zoom in closer and closer into your map. So if I was to change this to say 12 and reset it and then run it, you'll notice how the map changes. Instead of being 15 at a level of 15 very close, it backs off and it shows it from a much further distance. So the reason I use 15 is I played around with the values and I found that 15 displays the map the best way that I would like. So anyway, in terms of the rest of the code, the next 4 lines you see I've created line variables, and what each of those represents is one of the 4 lines of this rectangle that I put around my property. So you see in this 2 pairs of latitude and longitude numbers. The first pair corresponds with the first end of the line and the second pair at the other end. So again, using the latitude and longitude values of my map, using this method with the inspector, I determined where the 4 lines should be written. The next 4 lines then takes those line constructs and they map them to objects that are part of the map. So ee.feature says Earth Engine.feature, take the line that you've created, make it into a feature that can be applied to the map. And the last 4 lines is to take each of those features which represent a line and lay them over the map. So what this script does, to summarize, is it first sets the center of the map to the center of my property. It sets the zoom value. I have 15. And then it creates 4 lines and it overlays the rectangle on the map to show the boundaries of my property. So again, setting this back to 15, I'll show you what the script is meant to show. So again, now you see my map zoomed in much further, and so the whole map is bigger, and the section of my property is at a size that I find acceptable. So plain.js is the first of 3 scripts. I'll quickly show you the other 2. The next one is forest cover. And what forest cover does, when we run this, it does something interesting. It takes the same map that I had before, the same triangle which represents my property, but if you look at the different colors, what this is supposed to represent is the tree cover on the property. And the darker the areas, the less cover there is. So you can see that there's a lot of the property covered in trees. Very few open spots at this point. And that will vary from year to year because I've had the property logged, and in the areas where I have it cut, instead of being green, you'll see them be darker areas. So this kind of gives me a good idea of how much tree cover I have, how much not, and if I want to do some logging, I can go to a spot where there's a lot of cover and potentially cut that. So that's the second of my 3 scripts. This shows me tree cover and open spaces. Now the third one is elevation. And as you can probably guess, this will, as I run this will show elevation on my property. And here, when I created the rectangle, because it's black and white background, I made it a red rectangle. And what this map shows is the lighter areas are a higher altitude, the darker areas are lower. So look in the upper left-hand corner of my rectangle, that starts high, and as you move to the right and toward the middle, it gets darker, which means the topography descends. So this gives me a good visual representation of elevation in the property, and I could easily use this to find a high spot if I ever wanted to build a house there. So that's the third of 3 scripts. The code for the scripts are very similar. In all of them, I use this this map center command with the 15 zoom. I create the lines again. The only difference in this one, for example, is this uses a data set called USGS/NED, and that's a data set of information that the U.S. Geological Survey produces. So you're going to see different data sets for different needs in different applications and scripts. And the number of data sets, data collections are unbelievably numerous, and the amount of data is mind-boggling. So that's kind of a summary of my project. I used Google Earth Engine to create some scripts to produce some information of the geographical properties of my land. Now, it turned out to be surprisingly easy to get access to set up, and to create. It was quick. It took me maybe 30 minutes to learn the basics of the engine, enough to be able to produce these, and it's inexpensive. It's free. So this turned out to be an incredibly useful project with a tool that I found very, very informative, and I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.